Give me 30 days and I'll give you a new life. That's not a figure of speech. That's law. If you repeat what I'm about to teach you for just 30 days straight, your subconscious will accept it as truth, and your outer world will have no choice but to reflect it. For some, that will mean unexpected money. For others, healing. For others, still peace of mind where there was only worry. 30 days, that's all it takes. In this message, I will give you the exact spiritual conditioning formula that can change your life in just 30 days. You'll learn how to impress your subconscious with faith, gratitude, and wealth. Consciousness so deeply that your outer world must obey. If you've struggled for years with the same problems, money, worries, anxiety, loneliness, this will show you how to dissolve them and replace them with abundance, peace, and joy. Stay with me, and by the end you'll hold in your hands a practice that has changed thousands of lives and will change yours if you use it. Maybe you've tried affirmations before. Maybe you've read the books, repeated the phrases, even prayed, but nothing seemed to change. You wonder why others prosper while you struggle. You start to think, maybe it just doesn't work for you. That frustration is real and I understand it. But here's what you were never told. The subconscious doesn't respond to what you do once it responds to what you repeat daily until it feels real. That's the missing piece. This is why so many fail and why this 30-day formula works. Because it conditions your mind the same way you'd condition your body with consistency, repetition, and faith. So, here's what we'll do together over these 3 hours. First, I'll show you why the subconscious accepts repetition as truth and why 30 days is the perfect period to reprogram your mind. Then, I'll reveal the exact daily practice, the affirmations, the visualization, the gratitude, ritual that make up the spiritual conditioning formula. Finally, I'll show you how to sustain this change long after the 30 days so that abundance, peace, and joy become your natural way of life. And along the way, I'll share the secrets most people never hear, why missing just one day can weaken the process, why gratitude is more powerful than willpower, and why your subconscious only accepts what feels true, not what you merely wish. If you stay with me, you'll see how 30 days of faith can erase 30 years of struggle. Here's something most people completely miss, and it may surprise you when you first hear it. Change doesn't happen because of a single moment of inspiration, and it doesn't happen just because you said the right words once. Change happens because the subconscious mind responds to what is repeated consistently until it becomes law within you. That's why 30 days is so powerful. It's not a random number. 30 days is enough to impress the subconscious, to carve a new groove into the mind so that it accepts a new belief as natural, automatic, and inevitable. Less than that, and the old programming still holds too much sway. More than that, and yes, the habit grows stronger, but 30 days is the threshold where the shift begins to lock in. Think about a record player. The needle follows the groove again and again, and the more it runs through that groove, the deeper it becomes until the sound is clear and steady. Your subconscious is the same way. Every time you repeat a thought, every time you say an affirmation, every time you visualize with feeling, you're carving a groove. Why your mind shapes your reality. At first, it may feel faint, like scratching the surface, but keep at it, day after day, and the groove deepens. The subconscious begins to accept it as the only path, the only song, and your life begins to play that melody, automatically. That's what 30 days does. It deepens the groove so that the subconscious cannot help but follow it. Now, some people ask, but Joseph, why every single day? Can't I just do it when I feel like it? Let me answer with a picture. Imagine a farmer who waters his seeds one day, then forgets for 3 days, then waters again, then stops for a week. What happens? The seeds dry out, the growth is stunted, the harvest never comes. Consistency is what brings life. The subconscious is soil, and if you want a new harvest, you must water it daily. That's why missing even one day weakens the process. It's not that the law stops working, it's that you stop supplying the soil with nourishment. Here's the why. 30 days works because it takes time to dissolve the old program. Most people have been rehearsing the opposite belief for years. They've been telling themselves for decades, I'm poor, I'm unlucky, I'm anxious. I'll never change. That's 30 years of negative repetition. So when you first start, you're planting a new seed in a field already full of weeds. You can't just toss one seed in and walk away. You must keep planting, keep watering, keep pulling out weeds. 30 days gives you the momentum to push past resistance and begin a new harvest. Here's the what. 30 days of daily conditioning, affirmation, visualization. Gratitude is enough to begin rewriting the subconscious script. Each day you repeat your chiseling away at the old image and building the new. By the end of 30 days, you'll notice the difference. The anxiety feels lighter. The faith feels stronger. The new thought doesn't feel foreign anymore. It feels like you. And here's the how. You commit to a daily practice, no matter how small. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. Simple words, vivid images, heartfelt gratitude. That's all. Not hours of strain, not endless rituals, just faithful daily conditioning. Think of it like physical exercise. One workout won't change your body, but 30 days straight begins to reshape you. The mind works the same way. So what's the point I want you to feel deep in your heart right now? It's this. 30 days is not magic, but it is law. It is the length of time your subconscious needs to accept a new belief as truth. If you give me 30 days, if you give yourself 30 days, you will begin to see change. Not because of luck, not because of chance, but because of law, transition. And now that you see why 30 days is so powerful, the next question is, how do we use those days wisely? Because words alone aren't enough. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it and what you feel when you say it. Let's explore the power of emotional repetition. Here's the next thing you must understand, and it may seem almost too simple, but it is the difference between success and failure. Words alone will not change your life. You can repeat phrases 1,000 times. You can say affirmations until your lips are dry. But if those words are empty, if they carry no feeling, they will fall on barren soil. The subconscious does not respond to words as words. It responds to words clothed in emotion. It is not the sound of your voice that matters. It is the vibration behind the sound, the feeling you pour into it, the conviction with which you say it. A dry repetition is like scattering seeds on stone, but a word charged with feeling is like planting seeds in rich, moist soil. It takes root, it grows, it bears fruit. Think about how you remember events in your life. Do you remember the routine? Ordinary days. Most of them fade. But you remember the days of strong emotion, the joy of victory, the sorrow of loss, the thrill of love, the sting of understanding God's creative process. Betrayal. Why? Because emotion imprints. It carves the memory deep into the subconscious. The same law applies to affirmations and repetition. Say it without feeling, and it barely registers. Say it with gratitude, with love, with expectancy, and it burns itself into the salt subconscious like a bran. That is why gratitude is so powerful. It is not just polite manners. It is emotion in its highest form. Gratitude says, it is done, it is mine, I already have it. And when the subconscious hears that feeling, it accepts the suggestion as law. I once knew a woman who repeated affirmations every morning. I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am happy. But she said them like a grocery list, flat, mechanical, lifeless. Nothing changed. Then one day, I told her, stop saying the words and start feeling them. See the picture. Imagine yourself already there. Feel the joy of it as if it is happening now. She began to do it differently. Instead of repeating, I am healthy, with no emotion, she closed her eyes, pictured herself walking in the sunlight, breathing deeply, laughing with friends, and then she said, I am healthy. And Tears of gratitude filled her eyes. Within weeks, her body began to heal. What made the difference? Not the words themselves, but the feeling behind them. Murphy often said that when you pray, you must believe you have received and give thanks for it as though it were already done. This is emotional repetition. It is not begging for something to come someday. It is rejoicing as though it is already yours. When you repeat in this way, the subconscious does not argue. It does not delay. It accepts the feeling and begins to manifest it. That is why patients in Murphy's stories were healed, not by the exact phrases they used, but by the emotion they poured into them. One man did not simply deny pain by saying, "I am well." He felt the relief of healing. He accepted the idea that it is passing away, and his subconscious obeyed. Now, let me ask you, what have you been repeating emotionally? For repetition works both ways. Worry is repetition. Fear is repetition. Every time you rehearse disaster in your mind, every time you dwell on sickness, every time you say, "I can't do this," with feeling, you are planting seeds. And because fear carries strong emotion, the subconscious accepts it quickly. That is why worry produces results. So often it is prayer in reverse. So you must take this same law and turn it to your good. Instead of repeating fear, repeat faith. Instead of rehearsing failure, rehearse success. And above all, do it with feeling. Here is the law. Repetition impresses, but emotion seals. If you repeat without feeling, the seed may be planted, but it will not sprout. If you repeat with feeling, the subconscious will accept it as reality. So the next time you affirm wealth, do not just say the words. Feel the joy of freedom, the relief of bills paid, the thrill of giving generously. The next time you affirm health, feel the strength in your body, the ease in your breath, the delight of vitality. The next time you affirm peace, feel the calm, the stillness, the rest. Let the emotion be real, and the subconscious will take it as law, transition. And yet, as powerful as repetition is, we must also face the truth that it cuts both ways. For just as positive words with feeling create abundance, negative words with fear create lack. Let us now uncover the danger of negative repetition. Here is something most people overlook, and it may shock you when you first realize it. You are already practicing repetition. Every single day, you are already conditioning your subconscious. The question is not whether you are conditioning it, but with what, for repetition works in both directions. It can bring abundance or it can bring lack. It can bring health or it can bring sickness. It can build faith or it can build fear. And the great tragedy is that most people are practicing negative repetition without even knowing it. They are rehearsing failure. They are affirming poverty. They are visualizing disaster. They call it worry. They call it being realistic. They call it just the 30-day spiritual reset ritual, the way things are. But the subconscious doesn't care what they call it. It only knows that repetition plus emotion equals law. Think about how often a man says, "I can't afford that." He says it every week, maybe every day. Each time, the words sink into his subconscious like a command, "I can't afford it." And the subconscious, faithful as always, arranges his life so that he cannot afford it. Another person says, "Nothing ever works out for me." She repeats it after every setback. Soon it becomes a mantra, a creed. The subconscious accepts it, and life begins to reflect it. Failure after failure, disappointment after disappointment, not because she is cursed, but because she is repeating a curse of her own making. Negative repetition is powerful because it often comes with strong emotion. Worry is not a dry thought, it is a thought soaked in fear. Anger is not a casual word, it is a word charged with fire. Resentment is not a passing feeling, it is a wound rehearsed again and again. And the subconscious, like soil, accepts these seeds, waters them with your emotion, and produces a harvest to match. This is why so many people feel trapped in cycles of failure. They have conditioned their minds daily, faithfully, diligently, but with the wrong material. They have been faithful to fear instead of faithful to faith. Let me give you an image. Imagine an actor rehearsing a play. Night after night, he repeats his lines until they become second nature. When the curtain rises, he does not even have to think. The words flow automatically. Your subconscious is the same. Whatever lines you rehearse, it will perform. If you rehearse lack, it will perform lack. If you rehearse sickness, it will perform sickness. If you rehearse failure, it will perform failure. And the performance will be so natural, you may even think it was fate. But it was not fate, it was rehearsal. I once spoke with a man who constantly worried about losing his job. Every day he said to himself, one of these days, they're going to fire me. He pictured himself packing up his desk, walking out with a box in his hands, telling his family the bad news. He rehearsed it with such vividness that when the day finally came and he was let go, he said, "See, I knew it, but he did not know it. He created it." He had been praying for it with negative repetition. His subconscious had simply carried out the command. Do you see how dangerous this is? The law of repetition is neutral. It will work with whatever you give it. If you give it fear, it produces fear. If you give it faith, it produces faith. If you give it doubt, it produces doubt. If you give it gratitude, it produces gratitude. The law does not judge. It does not argue. It does not stop to say this is good, this is bad. It only obeys. That is why you must guard your words, your thoughts, your images, especially those you repeat. For every repetition is a seed, and every seed brings a harvest. So let me ask you, what have you been repeating lately? What words do you speak most often? What pictures do you dwell on daily? Are you planting weeds or are you planting roses? For the soil will grow both with equal faithfulness. The only difference is in the harvest you receive. And here is the good news. Just as negative repetition can be replaced, so can the harvest. If you have been rehearsing failure, you can begin rehearsing success. If you have been affirming lack, you can begin affirming abundance. If you have been visualizing sickness, you can begin visualizing health. The soil does not care. It will grow whatever seed you give it. That is why 30 days of deliberate repetition is so powerful, because it interrupts the old cycle and establishes the new transition. So now that you see the danger of negative repetition and the power of positive repetition, the natural question arises, what exactly should we be repeating, and how do we repeat it in a way that guarantees results? That is where we come to the spiritual conditioning formula itself: affirmations, visualization, and gratitude. Now that we've seen how repetition shapes destiny, both for good and for ill, we must look at the first great tool of the spiritual conditioning formula, affirmations. But I must tell you plainly, not all affirmations are equal. Some work and some fall flat. Why? Because an affirmation that sticks to the subconscious has certain qualities. It is simple, it is short, it is clear, and it is spoken with feeling. The subconscious does not understand long speeches or complex arguments. It does not reason the way your conscious mind does. It responds to impressions, to pictures, to emotions. That is why the most powerful affirmations are often just a few words repeated, consistently charged with conviction. Murphy himself often recommended phrases like wealth, success, spoken several times a day, especially in the quiet moments before sleep and after waking. 2 words, but when spoken with faith, they carry more power than 1,000 sentences spoken mechanically. Think of affirmation as writing a command into the blueprint of the subconscious. If you keep the command simple, it is accepted quickly. If you make it complicated, the subconscious hesitates. That is why so many people fail when they try to write long, flowery affirmations that they don't even believe themselves. The subconscious rejects what feels forced. But a short phrase spoken with sincerity, repeated daily, is like a hammer striking the same spot on a stone. One strike may do nothing, but strike again and again in the same place, and the stone will crack. The old program of poverty and fear will break, and the new belief will take its place. Let me give you an example. Murphy once told the story of a young salesgirl who could not make sales. Every time she approached a customer, she felt weak, breaking old subconscious patterns, unworthy, convinced they would not listen. And of course, her subconscious, programmed with failure, carried out that belief. Then she began to affirm, "I am successful, I am worthy." She repeated it daily, morning and night, until the words began to feel real. At first, she resisted the old voice whispered, "This isn't true." But she persisted. Slowly, the subconscious accepted the new command. Her attitude changed, her voice grew confident, her customers responded. Soon her sales increased, and her whole life turned around. What changed? Not the market, not the customers, but the inner program. She wrote a new command into her subconscious with affirmation. Now, here's the why. Affirmations work because the subconscious is impressionable. It accepts repeated ideas as facts, especially when spoken with emotion. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between truth and lie. It only knows what is repeated and believed. That's why negative affirmations like "I can't do this" or "I'll never succeed" are so dangerous. They are commands, but the same law works for your good when you reverse it. Here's the what affirmations that stick are short positive present tense and emotional. Not "I will be wealthy," which places the good in the future, but "I am wealthy now," which places it in the present. Not "I want peace," which declares lack, but "I am peace," which declares possession. The subconscious responds to "I am" because it is identity. It hears "I am" and says "so be it." And here's the how. Speak your affirmations daily, especially in the drowsy state, before sleep and after waking when the subconscious is most open. Speak them slowly with feeling as though they are already true. Repeat them until the words sink below the surface and become natural. Do not force belief. Let it grow. At first it may feel strange, but persistence is the key. 30 days of consistent affirmation will begin to shift the subconscious, and the shift within will soon be reflected without. So ask yourself now, what command are you writing on your mind each day? Are you saying "I am tired, I am broke, I am unlucky"? If so, change the command. Begin today with something simple. "I am wealthy, I am peace, I am success." Speak it, feel it, repeat it, and watch as your subconscious accepts it as law. Transition. And yet words alone, even when simple and powerful, are only one half of the formula. The subconscious also speaks in images, in pictures, in visions. To complete the conditioning, we must not only affirm with words, but also see with imagination. That is the work of visualization. Now that we have spoken of affirmations, the power of words repeated with feeling, we must turn to the second great pillar of the spiritual conditioning formula, visualization. For while words are powerful, words alone are not the natural language of the subconscious. The subconscious speaks in pictures, it dreams in images, it accepts symbols, it acts on visions. That is why a single vivid mental picture can do more to reprogram the mind than hours of lifeless repetition. When you imagine with intensity, when you see yourself already in possession of the good you desire, you are not pretending, you are impressing. You are giving your subconscious a blueprint. And the subconscious, faithful and obedient, begins to build the outer reality to match that inner design. Think for a moment about how worry works. Worry is nothing more than visualization in reverse. A man imagines himself losing his job and he pictures the shame, the struggle, the despair. He rehearses it in his mind again and again until he feels it in his body, and then the subconscious, taking that picture as a command, moves events to bring it about. Another woman imagines her body breaking down, imagines disease spreading, imagines herself in weakness, and her subconscious responds by creating symptoms that mirror the vision. Do you see? Worry is visualization of what you don't want, carried out faithfully by the subconscious. The same law used positively becomes your path to healing, abundance, and peace. Murphy often shared the story of when he wanted to sell his house. He didn't chase buyers frantically. He didn't beg or plead. Instead, he went into his imagination and pictured a bold sold sign standing in front of the property. He saw it clearly, felt the relief, the joy, the certainty of the sale, and soon after the buyer appeared, and the house was sold. What happened? The subconscious accepted the picture and moved to fulfill it. That is the law. Whatever image you consistently hold with faith and emotion must eventually show itself in the outer world. Here is the why visualization works. Close your eyes and enter the drowsy state, the relaxed condition between waking and sleep. In this state, the conscious mind is quiet and the subconscious is open. Then form a clear picture of your desired outcome. Add detail. See the colors, hear the sounds, feel the textures. Imagine yourself inside the picture, not watching from afar, but living it. Feel the joy, the gratitude, the relief as though it is real. Do not strain, do not beg. Simply imagine it until the feeling grows. Repeat this daily for 30 days and the subconscious will accept the image as reality, even after 30 days, even after affirmations, even after visualizations and gratitude. There is still one hidden belief that can quietly undo it all. A subtle chain of thought that works silently while you sleep, cancelling your progress. Most people never see it, never name it, and so they continue to cycle back into struggle even after practicing faithfully. In my next message, I will uncover this hidden chain and show you how to break it forever. If you miss it, you may repeat the same cycle. But if you see it and release it, nothing will stop you from living in permanent abundance. So do not stop here. Do not let this 30-day journey end without knowing the final key. Click on the next teaching. Continue the journey. For you have planted the seeds today, but the harvest, the full harvest is waiting for you, and it is rich beyond measure.